Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's Steven Like a Gamer, and I'm back with a game discussion. It's probably going to be a quick one, but like I said, month of October, I was going to get started with playing some more survival horror type games, anything like that. And like I had mentioned, I was playing through F.E.A.R 2, Project Origin. Now, interesting enough, I do have the first F.E.A.R here, but I tried putting that in, and for some reason, I just cannot get into that game. And I think I can tell it's like dated gameplay for a shooter. For some reason, I just cannot get into it. I want to try it again, though. For the love of me, I want to try that again. But until then, I went ahead and just looked up what the first one was about and played F.E.A.R 2 because I know F.E.A.R 3 looks really good. And F.E.A.R 2 always intrigued me, and I just could not get past the first one. So, anyways, I went ahead and jumped into F.E.A.R 2, which actually takes place kind of during, you start off during the last little bit of, I think, the first F.E.A.R from what it says. The best way to describe this as far as the story and plot line is I was just now reading the back before I wanted to start talking about it, and it pretty much sums it up perfect what you're doing in this game off the bat. So I'm just going to read that real quick, and it says, deployed just minutes before the blast triggered by the original F.E.A.R team, assume the role of Special Forces Sergeant Michael Beckett as your routine mission quickly turns into a fight for survival against the wrath of Alma Wade. As Alma's terrifying power surges out of control, your squad is forced to battle through an apocalyptic landscape in search of clues for how to destroy her. Now, Alma is even in the first game. Basically, she's just this supernatural being every time. You could be walking, you're seeing visions of her in your head, and she's just a person who was wronged by another group of people in her past. They pretty much have her in a coma state, and the only way to destroy her is to make your way. That's kind of getting to spoilers of the game, but there's a certain way you have to destroy her. And that's pretty much the mission of this game. You're trying to find a way to destroy Alma because she is just causing destruction and chaos everywhere, and that's pretty much the gist of the story. Without trying to get any spoilers, because it's not. It was pretty cool. It was something that got me in there and wanted me to see how it all concluded in the end. But apparently, I may have to wait for F.E.A.R 3 to see how everything goes. But yeah, F.E.A.R 2 Project Origin. So that's pretty much what it's about. What is it? Well, it's your standard F.E.A.R, pretty much your first-person shooter. You're just looking first person. You have your assortment of guns, pistol, machine gun, shotgun, sniper rifles. You name it, you got it. Pretty much your standard first-person shooter F.E.A.R. Where this kind of game throws a little twist at it from where I believe the series might have originated. I don't know if anything did this before or not, but it incorporates the slow motion feature to it. Where I was playing on the 360, anytime you hit the Y button, it just goes into slow motion, and you just have an advantage to start shooting other enemies and stuff in the game, which was pretty cool. I think it was way overpowered, but pretty cool. Because in sticky situations, I could just use that and clear out the rooms, and it felt just a tad bit overpowered. But I was playing on an easy mode anyway, just so I could get through the game. So that could have been it as well. And also the final ending fight for the game, I was able to kind of take advantage of it and probably beat it easier than I should have. But yeah, as far as that, it's pretty much your standard first-person shooter, like I said. Uh, it does have some horror aspects to it though, and you have a lot of jump scares and stuff in it. Did it always affect me? No. But there are times in the game where I did get these little trigger jump scares from where Alma could just appear in front of me, or an enemy comes from front of me, from behind me or something. And the game was weird in the fact that for the first little bit, nothing was scary because I'm fighting these soldiers. And then all of a sudden later on in the game, other things get incorporated into the game that fit more of a horror aspect as far as enemies. There was pretty much only 2 or 3 different type of enemy types in the game. You either had your soldiers, had some soldiers, you had kind of some big mech soldiers. You also had a few of the creatures that you fight in the game, maybe 2 or 3. Other than that, that is it. Well, it never fails in the middle of talking about something, get interrupted. But anyways, we're going to continue. What was I talking about? Pretty much the weapons and the enemies in the games. But yeah, it's pretty much your standard shooter fare, like I said. Uh, a little bit more on the scare tactics the game used. There's some. It sets a pretty cool atmosphere with you could just be walking through a corner and there's just blood and guts everywhere, bodies ripped apart. There's scenes in the game when you think you're about to get into some firefights with some enemies, and then all of a sudden you go into this hallucination state with Alma or something, and they just get ripped to shreds, and their bones and blood and guts is flying everywhere. So that's pretty cool in the game when those scenes happen, or just when something's in your face and the skin's flying off it and everything. It goes from for some effects like that, gross and stuff, but scary. No, like I said, the only times I might have jumped, it wasn't even from being scared. It was a jump scare of something surprising me, and that might have happened 2 or 3 times in the game. Now, there are some areas in the game that they pretty much you can tell when what kind of situation you're going to get depending on the lighting. They'll have these effects where everything kind of yellows out around you. In those situations, you know you're going to be running into some ghostly figures and stuff. That's probably the creepiest part of the game because you never know which corner a ghost or any ghostly figure is going to pop up around, and your lights just flashing and very dim, and it's tough to see. So those are some of the creepiest parts of the games for situations like that. Other than that, like I said, not too many different enemy styles. Near the very end of the game, they start throwing a few more new enemies at you, but by that time, it's like a little too late. You're like, well, why would you throw these at me now after I've been through more than 3/4 of the game just shooting soldiers and stuff? So the other thing with it is, as much as I enjoyed the game, it felt like it drug on a little too long. There's some first-person shooters like Halo and stuff that I don't mind how long they go for, or the length of them. And some of them I feel like, only need to be about 5, 6 hours. And that's all they need to be. I think this one took me at least 8 to 9 hours to beat. And I did pretty good at finding there's intel items, like just little journal entries and stuff you can collect throughout the game. And I found every single one of those, so it's pretty cool to find that. And there's a Shin yelling for me. But I spent some time exploring because even though it is pretty much a straightforward path of where to go, it's a linear shooter. There are some branching rooms and stuff to go explore and stuff in to find those extra intel items and some injectors that make your slow motion, like the meter, go up. You got to find those to level it up, and I was able to find all those. Didn't need any help with anything, any guides or nothing, because like I said, it's pretty straight through. But as far as visually and stuff with the horror aspects, it was pretty good visually. You can tell it kind of hit in the middle of the console generation where they still haven't found the peak of the graphics yet for themselves, like a Halo 4 or something. But it's still a good looking game in my opinion. And I thought it controlled really well. There was a lot of times I would get hung up on stuff in the environment, but other than that, it controlled pretty easily. Pretty good shooter control. So if as far as the sound and stuff, they had some good like ambient sounds and stuff for settings and everything like that. But there are some situations where you're getting on this turret and shooting things, and those situations like play this hard metal in the background that, and I'm a metal fan and stuff, it just didn't seem to fit with the moment that was going on, so it's pretty funny. But other than that, it had some cool like sounds and stuff, and sound is kind of key in combat sometimes too, because there are enemies that can be invisible and they'll pop up, but if you listen, you can hear if they're even coming and running towards you, which kind of takes some of the scare factor away, because like I can hear them coming, so it's not going to shock me when they're coming. But big problem that I had with the game, at least through the first few hours until I got used to it, was dizziness. And I was getting kind of nauseous playing the game. Because when you're playing this shooter, it has a heavy bouncing effect to the game that, I mean, when you're walking and running, it's showing you that you're walking and running because it's bouncing and your cursor's bouncing all over the screen. When you're shooting, there's a lot of heavy recoil, so that's bouncing. And it took me a while to get used to it because Sprag Spacebar was the same way when he played it. You can kind of get dizzy and nauseated from playing the first little bit of the game, and I've never experienced that before in a shooter, period. So it was kind of crazy to have that happen, but like I said, I got used to it, and eventually, after about 3 hours or so, which that's a while, I kind of got used to it. So That would be the only hindrance I would say to it as far as the gameplay and everything. But like I said, sound, graphics, everything looked good to me. So if you're looking for a just a standard first-person shooter, but with a pretty cool like psychological story to it and thrill ride, and this whole thing with Alma is really intriguing. Makes me really want to go play the first game to figure out more about it. And the ending of this game is just like, wow. So I want to play the third one. Don't know if that actually wraps the series up or not, but I want to play it now just so I can like get caught up with this ending because it leaves a cliffhanger ending. So and I think I looked up and that one is only 5 hours to beat. So I think that's really cheap now. I might go ahead and pick that up and see if I can sneak that in for October as well because this was a really cool story and a really cool game. So like I said, for some final thoughts, just a little bit long, but I liked it, especially the slow motion effect. That really eases the burden on times and stuff when you get in sticky situations. So if you're looking for a pretty cool psychological horror game, I can recommend it. Coming from a fan of horror games, it's not super scary or anything like that. So you might get a few jump scares, but other than that, if you're looking for something scary, that this isn't the one to go play. But it's still got some cool psychological stuff going on in it to mess with your head. So check out Fear. If you can, check out the first Fear. Let me know ways I can enjoy it so I can play through it because I really want to get the full effect of the story. But this was really cool. Now I gotta play Fear 3 to see how it all ends. Alright? Bye, gamer. Bye now.